of companies giving people that want a career change, have had a career break and want to make a new start, a chance. So I really like the idea of people being given a chance to try something new because they're not happy with what they've done so far.
You work with a lot of organisations helping them with their HR requirements. Are we seeing such things here?
I think we are. So I think what it comes down to, I think, is not about the... It's not about, right, I'm going to send my CV out to as many organisations as possible as a MIntern. It's your approach in how you go to these companies. So I was just speaking outside to your next guest. She actually has an intern in her office who's 43. Now, so something you can question her a little bit about later, but she had a very personal reason for taking that person on about being a mother and being able to empower women as well. So I genuinely believe that a lot of hiring managers out there are quite willing to give people a chance if they want to take a break, if they want to start something new. But I think if you're in that position of being a MIntern, don't expect to get it through an agency or sending your CV along with mass other interns that you're going to get the role. I think it's much better to go through contacts, to approach hiring managers directly, so that number one, they know that you're willing to take the same salary as a regular intern, in quotation marks, and that you're willing to start at the bottom. Because I think a misconception might be for a hiring manager seeing a CV of a MIntern is that, oh, this person either is going to be a bit too expensive, or secondly, this person is going to feel a bit uncomfortable being delegated things by people that are 15 years younger than them.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because we hear the phrase overqualified quite a lot. And if you've got 15, 20 years experience in the workforce, how do you signal exactly what you're saying? That you are humble enough to take direction from people younger than you, that you're not going to be expected to be treated at the level you might have been treated in your last job. How do you show that?
I think you can only show that in person or, over the phone. So as I was saying, that I don't think you can just send your CV in and expect people to look at it and be like, oh, they'll be willing to fit in and be delegated things. So I think if you can, as a MIntern, if you're looking for that opportunity to start something new, if you can attend networking events, if you can call hiring managers, if you can ask your contacts to put you in touch with hiring managers and make them sell you and say, look, if you can tell them I'm willing to take this massive pay cut, I'm willing to start again at the bottom, I'm quite happy to have managers that are younger than me. If you put that across in if either an interview or a meeting or through your contacts, then you're much more likely to get it. But I don't think you can go through the standard way of agencies and CV sending.
What are the challenges of pivoting mid-career in your 30s and beyond? What are the biggest hurdles?
I think the reason that people don't do it is because it's not generally financially feasible, because at that age, you might have a family, kids and a mortgage and whatnot. So sometimes it's just not financially feasible. Secondly, a lot of people end up finding that MIntern or that career break a bit too challenging to start. So what they'd rather do is start their own business or become a freelancer. Well, in terms of what are the challenges, I think there's a bit of a stigma attached to it. So, people feel that, oh, I'd rather just have a regular intern. So that's one thing. So actually before, yesterday I spoke to the founder of studentjobs.ae. So, the founder actually runs an intern agency. And I asked her about older interns. And what she said was that companies aren't really willing to try something new. However, on the flip side, when a company is looking for an intern, they firstly always ask for one that's done the same exact job before, and secondly they ask for someone who's got a little bit of work experience, so they want someone who's not completely green to the workforce. So on that note, perhaps they would be better looking at someone who's a MIntern, because that person will definitely have the experience and that person will definitely have the work experience too. But yeah, there is a certain stigma attached to it, I think, for certain companies.
I'm looking on the website olive.com, which is similar to the organisation you mentioned. It's a recruitment site for interns particularly. And what I'm happy to see is most of the job descriptions do not have an age limit on them. I'm looking at the requirements. You need to be a graduate in computer science. You need to have a little bit of experience. You should have the following skills: planning and managing time. I've looked at 6 or 7 this morning, and only one of them says specifically we want a fresh graduate. Now, maybe it's implicit that they're looking for fresh graduates. Typically, the website, olive.com and others like them, their bread and butter will be fresh graduates or people still doing a degree. But it's nice to know that that's not stipulated in the job descriptions. So if they did get a CV from a 42-year-old, hopefully they'd be open to it.
They would be. I think, I think the landscape is changing a bit. And I mentioned your guest earlier, but I also know several startups that have people that have had career changes. And if you speak to them and you say, what did you do previously? They'll generally say, I did a bit of this, bit of that, did this. They generally don't have 20 years of solid experience. It's just startup owners have, generally can't afford someone with 20 years solid experience, and they're willing to give someone a chance if they feel they have the transferable skills. In terms of the job descriptions, they might not explicitly say, right, we want someone who's a graduate, or we want someone who's 21 or 22. But many of them probably do see that in their mindset. So it would be up to the agent, I think, to say to them, look, would you be willing to give this person a go? They've got 20 years experience in this area, and I think they could do a really good job in this internship. They're willing to take that salary. They're willing to start at the beginning. Would you be willing to give it a go? And I think as an agent, if you're willing to sell them to that company, then if that company is in a progressive mindset of, yes, actually, we'd like to have something different, I'm quite willing to give people a chance, then they absolutely have a chance.
How flexible are we, though, here with the idea of transferable skills? You hear it bandied around a lot as a buzzword, but we also hear a lot of anecdotes of companies who want to hire someone who, they go into recruitment companies and they want someone who's done the exact same role somewhere else.
Yeah, and even with interns, they want that, which is quite interesting. So I think that if you're a MIntern and you're looking for that role, I think startups and small businesses are ideal, because I just think they can't really, they're not really interested in the person with 20 years experience, because they're going to ask for lots of money. And generally, a startup or a small business is not necessarily looking for that level either. So, for example, myself, I was recently thinking about getting an intern to do my social media for me. And the two key areas was because, one, I was not good at social media, and secondly, because I assumed a younger person would just be better at it. Would I be willing to consider an older person? Absolutely. If that person was good at, if they could show me and demonstrate that they were good at social media, I'd absolutely be willing to pay them an internship rate. However, I would make it very clear that I was looking for an intern and I would want to pay an internship rate. So I think small businesses and startups, very open. Larger businesses, MNCs, government, it's better. It's more about the hiring manager and their personal choices when it comes to hiring.
What about ageism, though? Because when you're speaking there saying you're looking for an intern for social media, I am automatically thinking, well, you'd want someone young then. I mean, I was listening to a speech by a non-fiction writer and commentator in Australia just a week ago, Jane Caro, saying that the people least likely to get a call back after a job interview in Australia are women over 50. And she was saying, ageism is alive and well in the workplace. What do we see here when it comes to ageism, particularly when people will be thinking about visas and how long they're going to get out of somebody?
Unfortunately, I think ageism does exist, but it's very different for different for different people. I think it's people specific rather than organisation. So, for example, with my portal of consultants, when sometimes sometimes some of them might say, right, we want someone within this age, and I'll just say no. I'll send all the ones that are experienced with the experience that you've requested. So even when sometimes they're looking for experts, so consultants, sometimes there's ageism there as well, which is very interesting. But ageism does exist, but I think it's very individual specific. I don't think it's per organisation. So that individual might leave, you might get a new hiring manager who has a different view on age. So I don't. People have their own view for sure about age, but I definitely don't think it's something that's regionally spread.
Thanj Kuganathan is the founder of Visible HR. She's in talking to us this morning about MInternships, mid-career internships. Would you take one? And if you are boss of an organisation or in HR, would you hire one? Let us know. Thanj, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This is